ImmaDreygon, and welcome to Side by Side, this new segment where I compare similar works to each other. And, in my typical fashion, I don't test the waters before jumping in way over my head and saying, "Oh lord, this is scary kinds of deep. This was a terrible idea." I say that because not only am I covering the classic argument, Tangled versus Frozen, but we're also adding on Moana, the most recent addition to the Disney princess canon. I mean, she's not part of the Disney princess brand yet, but let's be honest, she's going to be. Wait, where's Anna and Elsa? They aren't a part of it? But Merida is. She's Pixar! I have legitimate complaints about how other people are running their brand tailored to little girls. Well, anyways, there is a lot to discuss here. All of these films are incredibly similar in the themes explored, specifically freedom. Tell me if this sounds familiar. A young girl is kept confined from the outside world by a controlling parental figure, insisting it's not safe for her to be out there, only to later run off on her own seeking some kind of independence, causing her to learn that what her controlling parental figure taught her was entirely wrong, and her world and the world at large is now better off because of it. All three have leads that are perky, quirky, and likable, with designated male companion being a jerk at first who grows on you over time. Granted, there are differences in the nuance of the 90-minute runtimes as opposed to a couple sentences, but the themes explored are very similar because of it, especially the freedom and apprehension that comes with it. Each film covers different ways that this freedom could be a good thing, but could also be a problem. Except Tangled, where the only problem was the woman who didn't want Rapunzel to have freedom. Huh. There's a lot of other themes multiple of these films have in common, like responsibility as a leader, betrayal, redemption, and of course, love. There's tons of little details hidden in all of these films also, like how Mother Gothel only ever kisses Rapunzel's hair and not her forehead, and my personal favorite, Elsa's glance towards the streak in Anna's hair before she goes cold again. It may just be because I haven't had as long to sit with it and watch it as many times, but I feel like this is one spot where Moana falls short. There are little Easter eggs like Tamatoa being one of the monsters found on those scrolls near the start, but nothing really character-oriented or anything. And I do think this is a spot where Moana falters a bit. The characters don't seem to be as interesting to me as in the other two. My favorite from Tangled is Flynn, a main character. My favorite from Frozen is Elsa, a main character. From Moana, it's Tamatoa, and he's around for maybe 5 minutes. Moana herself has some great character moments and shows huge emotion at times, but her situation and how she reacts to it aren't particularly memorable. While Rapunzel is confined to a tower and Elsa to a room, Moana has an entire island to run around on, and there doesn't seem to be any particular struggle regarding her leaving the island after having left the island. We get a short nightmare sequence and that's it. One scene, not even a minute. And it's not mentioned again until she gives back the heart to the ocean. Conversely, Rapunzel's being hounded by her own guilt, by Flynn, and by Gothel. And Elsa's got her sister, a pack of armed men, and a blizzard. In addition, Moana's weaknesses never really mean anything. She can't sail, but she gets there anyways. She can't convince Maui to do anything, but then she just goes and does it herself. She doesn't really learn anything from these experiences. She's just as full a person at the beginning of the narrative as the end, and with such a heavy theme of self-identity.
You are your father's daughter. Who are you meant to be? We have forgotten who we are.
You know who you are.
That creates issues. Rapunzel goes from timid and cautious to assertive. Anna goes from pushy and excitable to responsible. And Moana goes from responsible and headstrong to responsible and headstrong. She was never wrong in her convictions. She made a simple mistake once, and never changes. On the male counterpart side, we've got Flynn, easily the best, Kristoff, easily the blandest, and Maui, easily the worst. They're not really similar enough to compare them all directly. Kristoff is a big guy who's friends with a reindeer and sells ice. Cool. It is worth noting though, near the end, he willingly leaves Anna because she's engaged to someone else, which is a nice change of pace from the standard romantic pairing, but other than that, nothing special. Flynn is for sure the most interesting of the three. Suave and funny with an endearing history and genuine sacrifice at the end, even if circumstances render that somewhat irrelevant. And having nearly died, he remains as charming as ever. On the other side of the spectrum, Maui is a jackass. A good chunk of the time we're with him, he's disrespectful to Moana. Methods ranging from verbal insults, marooning her on an island, using her as live bait, and peeing on her. I don't know how people like him, I much prefer his tattoo. The animation in each is incredibly similar as well, going for the standard semi-realism that we've come to expect from CGI Disney of the past decade. As for more specifics in the animation, each one pushes something different to the forefront. For Moana, it's this water, this gorgeous, gorgeous water. Frozen, surprise surprise, has snow and ice. And Tangled has this weird fiber optic cable attached to Rapunzel's head that replaces her hair when she sings. Both Frozen's and Moana's look absolutely stellar, and are that way throughout the entirety of the films. And while Tangled looks good by any standard you hold it to, it only really has one scene that can hold a candle against the other two, in I See the Light. Transition to music. This is another way where Tangled just doesn't manage to measure up. Again, great by any standard, but while the songs are good, I can picture all of them on Top 40 radio. There's no true variety or style to them. The easiest way to show this is to show that nothing really introduces this world to us. That is borderline essential. Nearly every Disney animated musical has this. Don't believe me?
Mysterious fathoms below.
Little town full of little people.
Arabian Nights. For glory, God, and gold, and the Virginia Company.
Morning in Paris, the city awakes to the bells of Notre Dame.
Back when the world was new.
When we're through, boys will gladly go to war for you.
Paradise untouched by man.
Now, you can argue all you want about some of these, but they all introduce us better than
When will my life begin?
which is decent characterization, but I know nothing about this world from it. Frozen arguably has two, in Vuli and Frozen Heart, and Moana has two full ones, Where You Are and We Know the Way, the second being among the best that Disney's ever done. In addition, there's only 4 full musical numbers in Tangled, whereas Frozen reaches that number before the end of its Act 1, and Moana hits it shortly thereafter. Add in that its big, show-stopping number is a classic romantic duet, while the others are about, again, freedom. And Tangled continues to be less and less comparable to the other two musically. Between Frozen and Moana, there are obvious comparisons to be made between the two Titanic numbers, Let It Go and How Far I'll Go, with the latter being more musically complex and the former having some slight subtlety as well as raw power behind it. The other big standout in Frozen, to me, is Do You Want to Build a Snowman?, covering the relationship between the two girls incredibly succinctly, whilst giving exposition over the course of what looks to be over a decade, and the end just tears me up inside. Moana doesn't really have anything that can match up to this in a direct head-to-head thematically, but on the comedic angle, Shiny is a brilliant little fever dream that I adore in every single way, with brilliantly choreographed camera work and visuals. Frozen's fever dream emphasizes the heat and not so much the dream. And I'd actually say that In Summer better matches up with You're Welcome, as the song from the perspective of the delusional sidekick that probably would be better off being left by the wayside. Where I think these two match up best again has got to be the X Factors though, the ones that have less attention drawn to them. Those come in 2 parts, the first being the reprises. I Am Moana, Song of the Ancestors, is a hell of a hybridization of Where You Are and How Far I'll Go. That is really the emotional climax of the entire film. This matches up well with For the First Time in Forever reprise, which isn't the emotional climax, but instead the tipping point from bad to worse. But it's approached at first as the potential solution to all of the problems, before taking a sharp pivot in that direction. The others are Vuli and An Innocent Warrior. Both songs you probably had to look up the name of if you were as enamored with them as I was. They're both very early on in their respective films, with Vu Li beginning during the studio credits, and An Innocent Warrior as Moana first meets the ocean. Both of them are atmospheric as anything, and make an appearance at the end of their respective films as well. Though it's more artfully done in Moana.
I have crossed the horizon to find you.
Even though they're not the first thing that comes to mind with music from these films, I think they both deserve recognition. In terms of the narrative of these films, Tangled certainly has the strongest one by textbook standards. The story has a clear focus on where it is going the whole time. We know everyone's motivations the whole time. The pacing between jumping from Rapunzel and Flynn back to Gothel is done very well, with most of the focus on the duo, but enough on Gothel so that we constantly know that she's there. The biggest two problems in my mind are the beginning, the 5 minutes of narration from Flynn that could have been totally cut and I think the story would have been better for it, and the end, where he dies and is then resurrected. That being said, the ending has grown on me because of how well it reinforces the themes of the film, especially with how it contradicts Gothel's line about the world being dark, selfish, and cruel.
If it finds even the slightest ray of sunshine, it destroys it.
Emphasized even more by the literal rays of sunshine all over. Now the other two have their issues. Frozen's are more obvious, with weird troll magic, the lack of real explanation about Elsa's blizzard, the trolls being there, the controversial twist villain, the trolls, this incredibly obtuse parental decision,
keep her powers hidden from everyone,
the trolls, the somewhat rushed thawing of the ice, and the trolls. There's a number of things shaky with the plot, and there's one thing that really should have been explicitly cut. With Moana, the biggest issue isn't as obvious, and it took me a good long time to find out what bothered me about it. The biggest issue is railroading. How is she gonna find Maui? It's gonna be so hard to sail to his island all alone. Oh wait, the ocean took care of it. But Maui doesn't want to go along with it. How will she stop him from leaving? Oh, don't worry, the ocean took care of it. When people point out that a lot of Moana seems to be disconnected individual adventures, I agree with them. But I like that. It makes the story seem more mythic, and it is in fact a myth. What I don't like as much is the feeling that it was only ever going to go this way, because the omnipresent ocean is there to keep everyone's arms and legs inside the boat at all times. So, the way things go around YouTube, you probably want me to tell you which of these are my favorite so I can either validate your own opinion or so you can rag on me. Alright, fine. I think the best CGI Disney Animation Studios movie heavily featuring a princess is Wreck-It Ralph. Alright, I'm off. See you later. Fine. I like Frozen. It likely has the biggest weaknesses of the three, given the story has issues and those stupid trolls. But I think it also does the most exceptional of the three as well. I'm more than willing to forgive its problems because of the phenomenal dynamic between the sisters. Music so powerful that it makes me cry, and the best subversion of the true love idea that you will find for miles. Tangled is my number 2, and probably objectively the best. But objectivity means nothing when it comes to art. The setting isn't the best, but the narrative and pacing and my god, Rapunzel and Flynn together work wonders. Add in the best cartoony horse antics you'll ever find on screen, and you've got yourself a hell of a movie. Moana comes third, and I won't deny it, it is largely Maui's fault. I know plenty of people love this character, but I've never understood why. He shows up and he's a jerk that tries to abandon Moana, and I hate him. Then he ditches Moana in a selfish and cowardly move, and I hate him. Then he comes back with no prompting, and I don't hate him anymore, but I still don't want him to get his hook back so he can learn some damn humility. But the good behind this movie is too strong for even my distaste for a lead role to tarnish it. The music is astounding, the animation even better than that, and I honestly like the narrative non sequitur mythical journey thing that it's got going on. But Maui just sucks! All three of these movies are well worth your time. Tangled is probably the safest choice without a doubt, as I don't think you'll find a single person anywhere that actually dislikes the film. Frozen is the best if you can overlook some clear flaws to see the bigger picture, or if story isn't terribly important to you. Moana is the best if you're looking for something pretty with absurdly high production values, or if you have more tolerance than I do for a huge jackass yelling his catchphrase. Chee-hoo indeed, you immortal waste of oxygen.
Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Next time, I'll be covering a whole lot of garbage.